And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports, the November 30th, 2022 edition. Let me welcome our guest panelist, Bobby Special K. Kinzer. We want you back as a regular, Bobby. I hope you can. We just gonna see some fingers.
No, I'm just, you know me, man. Anytime I get to be on Real Fellas, I am so happy. I am so, let me tell you how happy I am. I'm happy than a lesbian with a bag of tongues.
Okay, that's it. Larry Abels, how you doing?
I'm good, David. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Earl, Go Rush, why we bring Bob?
I just like it. I just like him as a person. What can I do? I just like him as a
I love you too.
He's a very likable person.
Yeah.
He's a very and my frat.
06.
06. All right. Let's start off with some college football. College football is going to really wrap itself up this weekend with most of the college conference championship games that will determine the Final Four. The Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12 have conference championship games. Kansas State versus TCU, Purdue versus Michigan, Utah versus USC, and Georgia versus LSU. Let me start with you, Earl. What teams of those four, the Final Four, or the top playoff four now, are we looking at? Which one do you think could possibly lose?
They could possibly lose. Of the top four right now,
Right now.
I probably will say TCU probably. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bobby.
I'm trying to remember who's playing Utah. Is it USC?
Yes.
USC. And that's the team that lost, that USC lost to early in the season.
Early in the season. That's a strong possibility that they would lose to Utah again. And my other one is Kansas State is on the prowl. You got to watch out for Kansas State, and that's against TCU.
Now, Kansas State, keep in mind, had a 28-10 lead over TCU earlier in the season. So that's another possibility. Larry, your thoughts?
Utah and USC, that was a close game. I see no reason why it shouldn't be another nail biter.
Let's before we let me just go back. Will there be an upset, even though somebody's vulnerable? USC's vulnerable, TCU's vulnerable, but could there be an upset with those two teams, or could Purdue upset Michigan, or could LSU upset Georgia? Is that possible? Larry?
I guess it is possible. I'm looking at so you're really talking about the Michigan, Purdue, and Georgia LSU matchups. I don't expect either one of those teams to lose. If I had to pick one, maybe LSU, because they've got a couple of nice wins under their belt, but I don't expect them to win.
Okay. Bobby?
Football is a game of chance. Anybody could lose. So I could see upset coming in any one of those games. No doubt about it.
Earl?
Yeah, I mean, yes. There's always a chance of upset. So I didn't really quite understand the question. Of course, somebody can lose. Anybody can lose at any time.
Anybody can lose, but is it likely? We have this debate, seems like every year during college football season, that should be no more than 4 teams in the playoffs. I argue for 12 or 8, and you guys try to argue me down.
Okay. Who's likely? Michigan's likely to lose.
To Purdue?
Whoever Michigan is likely to play, that's who
they're playing Purdue. They're playing Purdue.
Yes. Michigan.
All right. I will accept that as a potential answer from you, but I don't think that's what you really want to say. Best college football players, Heisman Trophy candidates are going to be who, Earl? Who you got? Caleb Williams?
I say Caleb Williams. From what Stroud was up there from what I was seeing, but he showed up shaky. I would say Caleb Williams to answer your question.
And Stroud, of course, is from Ohio State. Larry.
Oh man, I gotta pass on this one. I got a blank. I mean, I know who's talked about in the media, but I have not seen enough of them.
Okay. And Bobby.
Well, I know it's a lot of times based on wins, but the boy Stroud from Ohio State, he has actually the best stats than most of his rating is up there. You know, his 170 point QB rating. He's only had maybe 2 interceptions, and he's passing over 3,000 yards. And so his record is really showing up. And then the next guy to him, the next highest QB rating is the boy at UCLA, Caleb Williams, who went to Gonzaga.
He didn't go to UCLA. He goes to USC.
Thank you very much for clarification, but we all do know through the history that there's always been a conflict and people get those mixed up. So thank you very much, Captain Obvious. But USC, Caleb Williams actually went to Gonzaga High School here in Washington, D.C. And
who the hell gets USC mixed up with UCLA?
Yeah, all the time. Me. So anyway, I just want to say, as far as I think quarterback, but the boy from he don't stand a chance, but the boy from quarterback for TSU has his quarterback rating is the highest than all of them. But
the quarterback from who? You said TSU. Who do you mean now?
TCU.
You need to speak your words a little bit more clearly and distinctly.
Yeah, you need to get clear on that monkey bar. You hearing stuff. TCU. I'm getting too fast. I'm trying to talk fast before David, gives me the buzzer, give me the Sandman shit stuff.
Oh, and I will.
He should have given that to you.
So, and one last one, David, that I must say, this boy should be in the running because he's like the second leading as far as quarterback rating. And the boy Hooker from Tennessee, although he's injured and he's going to be hurt, he's only had 2 interceptions, over 3,000 yards, 27 TDs, 27 TDs. So anyway, it's a crowded race. It's not that easy. I'm just telling you, there's a bunch of great players, and I ain't even mentioned the running back who's rolling, the boy from Michigan who's killing with over 1,400 yards.
Okay, and that's very proper. I like though Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State.
Yes.
And the Heisman Trophy has become kind of a quarterback's award. Only been a handful of non-quarterbacks that have won in the last 20 years. But I think the guy that makes no mistakes, catches everything, and is bigger than his daddy, faster than his father, and has glue hands just like his dad. Marvin Harrison Jr. is my candidate for Player of the Year if he doesn't get the Heisman Trophy, which he probably won't. I will say he will get the real fellas Player of the Year.
Hey, David,
I also like Blake Corum too, the guy that you mentioned from Michigan, the running back. Yeah, go ahead, Bobby.
On the receiver tip, because like you said, they're always looking at quarterbacks, which I sort of went and just used quarterbacks. The boy, and he doesn't get enough credit, but his name is Jay Hyatt for Tennessee. He has more receiving yards than Harrison. He has more. He has more touchdowns, 3 more touchdowns, and Harrison averages 16 yards a catch. This boy averages 19 yards a catch. He's a beast. Jay Hyatt. Just check him out this weekend.
I will.
Tennessee.
I will. All right. What year is he? What year is he, Bobby?
Oh man, I'm not sure. Good question. That makes.
I'm just wondering if he's getting ready to come out.
Good one, David, because that makes a difference.
It does make a difference. Now let's just move on. We're going to talk about college coaches. The first potential.
What makes a difference? What makes a difference?
His rating. if he's, what year he's coming out. Like if he's like a senior, he might be, considered a little bit more than if he was just like a sophomore. That's what I meant. Him coming out might make a difference. You may.
I don't want to hold up the show. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
He's a junior, Dave.
If you're a Heisman,
All right.
if you're a freshman, and you consider the best out there, it don't matter whether you're a freshman or a senior.
Not if you're going up against a quarterback. I question that. Not if you're going up against a quarterback.
Quarterbacks have the advantage, unfortunately. All right, let's talk about college coaches, and I'm going to start with the coach that could change the whole landscape of at least one part of college football. And that's Deion Sanders, considering going to the University of Colorado, Colorado University of Colorado. Larry, let me start with you. Your thoughts on the impact of Deion Sanders, what he's done for Jackson State, what he's done for HBCU football, and what would happen to all of that's been gained by HBCU football if Deion were to take one of these offers, particularly if he did go to Colorado. Larry?
I don't see Deion having an impact on HBCU football. I see him having it on Jackson State. And if Jackson State is a subset of HBCU football, okay. But primarily on Jackson State, he's certainly that program has got a lot of notoriety. And if he leaves there, I think their recruiting obviously would be hurt. No matter where he goes, I think he's an excellent recruiter. But HBCU football, I don't see him impacting it that much. Jackson State, definitely.
Earl.
I'm pretty much side with Larry saying I don't see him making that much impact with HBCU all around. He's definitely, obviously, he's getting more recognition for Jackson State, ESPN and all that kind of stuff. So, but
all right, well, I'm going to take a different tack, and I'm going to address Bobby. Bobby, last year, you were really on top of HBCU football players not being selected in the NFL draft. And that's something that's changed over the years. I think Deion Sanders has put a spotlight on HBCU football that hasn't been there for several decades. And, of course, particularly Jackson State. But HBCU football has gotten more talk this year than at any other time in recent memory. Bobby, your thoughts?
Well, I think Larry Abels and Earl Rush has lost their freaking mind if they're going to sit up here and think that the impact that he has had on HBCU, they had them on the college,
Game day.
Game day. Every time he talked, he just didn't talk about Jackson State. He talked about ACUs, and just for him to be talking about it, and I think that may have led to what's the other running back that went to Tennessee State,
Eddie George.
Eddie George, and he's brought and just like the young kid that was the number one player in high school player, that said a lot to other players that they can go to, not just Jackson State, to HBCU. But David, I'm not sure Colorado is the right fit for Deion Sanders.
What would be a better fit than Colorado if Deion were to leave Jackson State?
I take which he would never get, but I think something a little bit more. I just don't think Colorado's a good fit for him. More like I want to say Ohio State, but I got it. No, this would be perfect place for him. Perfect place for him. The University of Maryland.
Okay. University of Maryland would be a good stop, but they do have an up-and-coming black coach at the University of Maryland. Maryland has improved in recent years. I would like to see Deion, once he has kind of made some real changes with Jackson State and HBCU football, coach where he played, and that's Florida State.
That's another one.
So let me ask you guys.
I think that might be a place.
That's a good one, Dave.
What changes has he made to HBCU football? I think he had increased awareness for some of you guys, but what changes has he made?
Well, let me just push back on that, Larry. I mean, I know that you don't think that he's made that much of a difference to HBCU football, but he has.
How?
The way change is made in any area of society is the talk, the chatter, and that's how things move and change.
So Jackson State beyond Jackson
Hold
State.
on, let me finish.
Beyond Jackson State. Give me an example.
Let me finish.
All right.
Jackson State has gotten a lot of attention. Deion Sanders has gotten a lot of attention. But as Bobby said, every time that Deion was interviewed, every comment that Deion made did not just include his talk about Jackson State. There's not been this much discussion of HBCU football in recent memory. That's what has happened and what he has done for HBCU football.
So
sometimes you have to be
a specific example. That's
what
I want to ask you. Give me a specific example.
Well,
I follow HBCU football.
What more do you want? But Larry, I
mean,
David just gave you an example, and I'll give you an example.
What school has, besides Jackson State, tell me another school besides Jackson State?
First of all, Larry, this is so new. You got to give it time. It's not like he's some great messiah. All of a sudden, all players are flooding into HBCUs. There's no doubt about it. And you know that's not how it works. Okay. But one of the changes he has made, he's got other NFL people have been going to other HBCUs and looking at HBCU players. And that has been a statement that has been made that because of him, they are looking at more HBCU. Last year, like I said, not one player was drafted in the NFL.
I agree.
I bet you this year.
There have been more articles written about HBCU football in this particular year than in probably the last 5 years combined.
Once again, name some other schools besides Jackson State.
First of all, Larry,
name one.
Hey, Dave, I want to throw it back to Larry.
Name one.
What are you expecting to see? Let me.
I expect my position on this. He's had a great impact on Jackson State. I follow HBCU football. He's had a great impact on that, and I like Eddie George, but Eddie George hasn't had the same impact that Deion. Deion is a master salesman. No matter where he goes, I don't care what school he goes to.
You're telling me that the attention that Deion has brought to Jackson State and conversely to HBCU football, it doesn't matter that it not that the needle has not moved.
One other school that he's
I'm telling you right now. I've told you. There have been more articles.
That's not fair either.
Why can't y'all name a school? Name a school.
Wait a minute and move on.
Wait a minute. Once again, Larry, I'm asking you.
Okay.
Tell me what change are you expecting to happen?
All I said was he didn't have that.
No, answer my question.
Bobby, I said he didn't have that. I said he had an impact. My position, he had an impact on Jackson State. Now, after the COVID year, a lot of HBCUs canceled their football seasons. So I wasn't totally surprised that they didn't get drafted, and they don't go there that much either anyway.
First of all, that was the first time that happened, by the way, that it wasn't a player.
I agree, but a lot of them canceled their seasons. All right.
And so did white schools. Stop that. People always say that white schools.
A lot of them didn't, like the SEC.
But it's way more. Larry, come on, be fair.
No, but they didn't cancel their seasons. They didn't. I mean, I think that was an anomaly. But the thing is, my whole thing. We talked the questions about Deion's impact. Yeah. My statement is he's impacted Jackson State. Now, if he stays there and other people can he's a self-promoter. That's really the big thing. No matter where he goes, he's going to draw attention. He's done
that. I'm going to let you have.
Dave, can I say this last?
Go ahead, Bobby.
But Larry, I don't know what change you are expecting to see, but what I'm trying to tell you, I'll put money on it that this year there will be more than one black player drafted in the NFL.
I think so too.
And it's going to be because of when they played LSU, the scouts that came to see LSU saw a player from another school. And those are things you just don't see. Those are intangibles, like, because I don't know what you expect him to see so tangible. How long has he been at Jackson State?
My only statement
this is third
was
year.
I don't think he had the impact. I think his impact was primarily on Jackson State.
That's fair.
I don't think he helped Howard. I don't think he helped Morgan.
No, nobody can help Howard. That's so unfair. Come on, that
okay. All I asked was name one other team. Name one other team.
Let me cut this out for just a minute and just offer this one thought. And I'm sure all of you who are educated people understand this. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I'm going to leave it at that. And Jackson State is a rising tide that is lifting the boat of HBCU football. Let's move on. David Shaw, the African-American head coach at Stanford. He resigned 12 seasons in. Stanford, one of the hardest places to be successful at because of the academic standards there. It's the Harvard of the West. What do you see in David Shaw? David Shaw had a 96-54 record. He's only 50 years old. I think he's ready for the NFL or even another college program. What do you think, Earl?
I'm trying to figure out why is it that he wants to resign. Is it because his last 2 years they were very poor? Just what? I mean, I'm not sure. Why does he want to resign?
I don't know. We don't know. All I know is he's still a viable college coach with a successful record at a school that is very difficult to win at. Mm-hmm. Very difficult to win at.
His last couple of years, have he had like poor records, like 3-9 records or something?
Yeah, he has.
Yes, so I'm just asking why. While you asked me what I thought, I just would like to know why is it that he wants to resign? That's all. I'm
asking you, what do you think of his future?
My question was, I want to know why he wants to resign.
We don't know, but we don't know, Earl.
Okay, well.
What do you think of his future? Does he have a future?
I have no idea. It's hard to think someone had a future when their last 2 seasons were 3-9 each year. I don't know. And you know, they have fast hooks nowadays. It don't take long. If they're not happy with you, you're gone. So I can't honestly say whether he has a future or not. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Bobby.
Well, first of all, it's tough being a black coach at a PWI such as Stanford, the level that Stanford is. It's tough to win there. And second, me knowing what his future is going to be, it would be just like what Larry Abrams is saying, that Deion Sanders' impact he can't even see. I don't even know what a black coach, you just don't know, Dave. I just, it's so, what's the word, esoteric, because, you could be winning and still don't get another job someplace else. So I have no idea. All I know is he hasn't been winning, and that's not a good thing for a black coach seeking employment.
Okay. Larry.
I think Earl raised a good point. It might, and it could be, what does he want to do? I look after we had the meeting the other day, there's a lot of speculation that he's going to go into the TV booth. So maybe he's just tired of coaching. 50 years old is young to us, but that's maybe he's ready for another career.
That's a lot of years in football. It'll burn you out.
Yeah, so maybe, and they've had 3-9 seasons like Earl mentioned. So maybe he'll just do something different.
Well, let me just offer my thoughts and the reason I brought this up overall. Mr. Shaw has distinguished himself as an outstanding college coach. To work at Stanford University, it's very difficult. We always hear about how tough it is to go to Notre Dame and why Notre Dame struggles against certain teams because they can't get certain players. And that's fair. Stanford, take that up another couple of notches beyond Notre Dame, and there you got Stanford. And Stanford has been successful beyond anything anybody expected. Compare Stanford to, let's say, Northwestern, which is the Harvard of the Midwest. So you got Harvard, which doesn't play major college football. You got Northwestern and Stanford, schools that really struggle. Notre Dame's a winner. I'm just saying, I think at 50 years old, David Shaw should have the world open up to him, whether it's television, whether it's the NFL, whether it's another college program. He could be successful. If you can be successful at Stanford, where he has been successful, uber successful, you can be successful anywhere. And everything I've ever heard about David Shaw suggests that he's an outstanding coach, outstanding motivator, and outstanding leader. And so I'm hoping at 50 years old that he continues coaching and that he gets the Matt Rule treatment. Matt Rule, we'll end the college football coaches discussion with a discussion about Matt Rule, fired by Carolina Panthers this year, and hired to an 8-year contract at Nebraska. Keeping in mind, Matt Rule has an overall losing record at Temple, at Baylor, and at Colorado. An overall losing record. And he hadn't even coached that many years as a head coach. So my thoughts are, if Matt Rule can get an 8-year contract with his record, I'm hoping David Shaw can certainly step into any program in the country.
Boy,
Any thoughts on that?
That's a reach. You comparing apples and pears.
Nebraska should have hired Deion Sanders.
Oh my God. They would have ran that mug out of town. You crazy. Like, that's, oh God. Can you imagine Deion in Nebraska? Woo-wee.
All righty. Anyway, gentlemen, let me move on and we'll talk about the NFL. We're entering week 13. The best teams in the NFL at week 13 are who? You can name as many as you want, Larry.
Best AFC team is Kansas City. Best NFC team is Philadelphia. Other teams that get honorable mention, I'll give you 3 more: Dallas, Miami, and Buffalo.
Okay. Earl.
Yeah, I like Larry's list, but I would add San Francisco on that list as well.
Okay. Bobby.
I'm going by conference. The NFC East is finally looking competitive. Okay, they used to be looking like some crap. They look seriously crap all the way down to the 4th person. You know, we got the Giants, Philly, Dallas, Giants, and the Commandos. I like to call them Commandos. They should have been Commandos, but the Commanders. And then the NFC East, man. I mean, that East is rolling too. Miami, Buffalo, well, the Jets with Mac White starting to play. But I think I'm going with Philly, and I like what I'm seeing in Dallas and Miami.
Okay. I like Miami. I like Buffalo. I like the Eagles and the Chiefs. And pulling up the rear, I think the 49ers and Cowboys. Yeah. And the Cowboys might surprise all of us this year.
Yeah.
We hear that every year, though.
Yeah. San Francisco is surprising me.
Garoppolo has done a pretty good job of filling in. And
defense is rolling.
And the defense is playing well, too. All right. Lamar Jackson tweeted a pretty angry response to a fan a couple of days ago, which included what would be described as an anti-gay slur. Is this just frustration on Lamar Jackson's part? Is that part of his personality? Because the comments that he made were pretty, as his coach said, were seemingly out of character. Earl, your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't see why you think it was out of character. I mean, he said he felt how he just expressed himself like he normally does. I mean, I think maybe that's
the out of character. The out of character comment came from John Harbaugh.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
And I think it's out of character too, based on everything we know publicly about Lamar Jackson.
Well, it could be, but I also know you don't never always know everything about everybody. So that's not the situation. You can't never say, well, that's the situation or not. But I don't think it's out of character. I think he was just pissed, and that's the way he would express himself when he was pissed. That's what I think.
Okay, Bobby.
Well, David, this is becoming a trend. And once again, my opinion, but it seems that these young professional athletes, not just football, across the board, they feel they have to respond verbally in public to everything. And that is totally different than in the past. Mm-hmm. If you look at the trend, these young guys just feel that, like Kevin Durant, all these guys, they feel they got to, as soon as somebody says something, they got to come right back and express themselves like a knee-jerk reaction, and that's not good. And that's what I learned, when I first started playing pro ball, and they gave us, training and how to deal with the news and the media. You just can't just speak all the time what's on your mind, because we all know in the professional ranks that they will take stuff and turn it around and use it against you. So you have to have some kind of common sense and some kind of regulator. And I'm just telling you, I'm seeing it more and more. These young guys, they feel they're out there on social media. They feel they got to respond to everything. And I'm like, no, just shut the hell up sometime. That's my take.
Larry, what's the question?
Were you in the room with Earl over there with the monkey ball?
No, I'm trying to make sure I know what the question is.
After a 4 or 5 minute response, you forget what the question is.
The question was?
This is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson making the tweet that responded to a fan, which included a gay slur.
Okay. Yeah, he made a vulgar statement, no doubt about it. I didn't know what the question was it out of character, because you mentioned, I think, the coach saying that. And I tend to agree with the coach. I think it is out of character for him. He's given us, numerous response and dealt with the press a lot better. I think he was just upset. And as Bobby said, like some people, sometimes they need to pause for a second before they respond. And he didn't do that in this case. I doubt if it's the first time he's felt that way, but
right. That's why I don't say it was out of character.
I'll say it's out of character because he normally doesn't respond that way publicly.
But you just can't say what's on your mind in the public forum like that.
Yeah, but he normally doesn't do that.
Sometimes it only take one to destroy people's careers. He's got to be lucky. I'm telling you, this Me Too movement, politically correct, critical race theory, all of that pronouns. Hey,
Bobby, if this was the NBA, he'd be in trouble. The NFL doesn't give a crap about none of that stuff.
Good point.
They don't give a crap about that.
All right. Let's move on to another quarterback who has been in the center of tremendous controversy, and justifiably so. Deshaun Watson returns after his suspension this Sunday. What should we expect connected to his return, Bobby?
I think they should play Return of the Mac. Return of the Mac. When he comes out there, man, I'm for him. I'm all for Deshaun. Like I was just saying with Larry, I don't know how they're going to respond, because they talking about the people that he violated. They're going to be there at the game. So it's going to be a circus, man. I don't really know how it's going to turn out for him, but I'm happy to see him back, and just give a man a second chance. That's all I'm saying. Everybody makes mistakes, man, but people act like they don't.
Larry, Deshaun Watson's return. What we expect on his return?
I expect him to be rusty because he hasn't played for 2 years. Not in a regular season game. As Bob was just saying, there's probably going to be some people there protesting, but where I look at it, he served his suspension. It's over with. Move on.
Earl.
I would imagine that it'll be a media circus. That's what I expect. It's going to be a media circus. People asking him all kinds of questions, the same questions over 100 times in a row, that kind of crazy stuff. That's about it.
All right. Well, let me just offer, my quick thoughts on Deshaun Watson. I'm not sure how anybody will ever really look at Deshaun Watson the same. Now, as a football player, I'm hoping he will be successful. As a human being, I'm not sure how I feel about what he's done. We'll just have to see. I just think we've got to be careful about celebrating this guy. Let's just see him play football, and let's just let time pass. Ben Roethlisberger, time passed. Kobe Bryant, time passed. We'll have to see. Now, do we excuse what we've heard about what he did, what we think he did? No, we don't excuse that. He's been punished. He's been penalized. He's lost millions of dollars, even though he's making many millions more. It's still important that we, at least just watch the game, watch him play, and leave it at that. But I think his legacy has certainly been harmed. There's no question about that.
Well,
his
Dave,
legacy's
you need to be
been harmed.
careful. We just talked about what people be saying. Be careful what you're saying. You can't be saying he's penalized. Okay, that's not politically correct.
Is this
Bobby.
thing on?
Bobby.
What? I'm just saying.
Okay. Let's just move on.
We just talked about.
Let's just move on. All right. Last question on football. Cowboys and Giants on Thanksgiving Day had the second largest TV audience of the year. I would be willing to bet that most of the largest NFL games viewing statistics, almost, I would say 80% of them involve the Dallas Cowboys. What do you guys think, Larry?
Well, I sent out a list of the top games, so I'd be willing to bet you on that. But New York and Dallas set the record. And as we were talking in another meeting, I think it's America's team plus the competitive Giants team. The record that it broke was set in 1990. San Francisco Giants San Francisco 49ers and New York Giants. Another where you had a marquee team and a big media market with a good team. So I think Dallas is part of it, because they're a big draw. Certainly they're a national draw, but you get a big market like New York and they're with a good team. Those people on a Thanksgiving, they'll watch it.
All right, Bobby.
Come on. It's Dallas always playing on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, you don't have no competition with any other football game, so of course you're going to have a little bit more viewers. And Dallas is the number one selling merchandise in the NFL, so that just lets you know of their popularity. If they're the number one, what they call it, merchandise seller, then that means there must be some interest around the world. So I think that plays a part.
Dallas has been for probably 40 years the number one rated NFL team that we have. I think so. Earl, your thoughts?
Let's move on. I don't have anything intelligent to add to that conversation. So all
right, we're going to quickly talk about the World Cup and then the NBA. World Cup. The United States is getting ready to play the Netherlands in the round of 16. Have you guys been watching? Earl, have you been watching any of the World Cup?
No.
Shame on you.
Why not, Earl?
I'm not a football fan.
And football is the term used for soccer around the world.
Yeah. No, I just don't get it. I just don't get that game. I'm not going to say anything negative about it because I don't understand it. I'm just going to tell you, I have not watched it. I don't like. I'm interested in football. Okay.
Bobby.
Well, me being in Great Britain all those years, I watched football, as they call it, and I'm definitely interested in the World Cup. And it's so interesting because now, you got American people watching soccer, and you're getting ready to have a railroad strike. That sounded like we becoming more like Europe. But anyway, some of the best teams that are out there, it's like England, man. England, they get ready to play Holland, tough team. England has scored over 9 goals, and that they have what they call for you novice in football, international football. When you call it a goal deficiency, they have when you score more goals than have been scored on you. England is up there. Spain, Brazil. Look out for Brazil. They haven't even lost a game yet. And by the way, shout out to prayers for Pele went to the hospital because he's sick. I didn't know he was still alive. And look out for Senegal, them brothers. And then, did you notice the captain and the players for the U.S. team, the number of black players they have? And the captain is black, first. So, yes, I'm into the World Cup.
Clearly so. Larry.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of soccer.
It's football, Larry.
In Britain, sure. Most of the world, football in Spanish countries is football. But
in America,
I'm a big fan of it. I watched all 3 of the U.S. games. I watched Argentina and Poland and Mexico and Saudi Arabia. Both and all of those in that round in that group, a lot of things had to happen, and especially Mexico's like a traditional power, and they didn't make the knockout round. They first time since 1978 they didn't make it.
And Larry, how was the Poland game? Because Poland is really good too. How was that game?
Argentina is certainly dominant over them. They couldn't even keep it down. Anytime they tried to get down in Argentina would do like a fast break on them.
Wow, Poland's going. By the way, excuse me, it's not game; it's a match. Excuse me.
Poland.
All right,
you said that right.
Before we argue over game, match, and all of that, let me just ask you, considering the World Cup is being watched by probably 1 billion people around the world, but it's being played in Qatar, Qatar, whatever you want to call it. That country has some issues. As a Muslim country, it's got some issues. The country's essentially built up on labor that is questionable. The labor circumstances of those who are actually building Qatar. That's kind of a problem. Does that bother you guys at all when you
being a Muslim country? Being a Muslim country doesn't bother me at all.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
they have terrible human rights.
What they did to get those stadiums built was terrible.
Right, and then they're the size of Connecticut, but it's all about the money. The World Cup is big money, and I'm appalled, David, that is in Qatar because of all the human right abuses that country has. But it is to let you know that money rules. You know what I'm saying?
Money does rule, and Qatar has plenty of money.
Plenty.
Most of their population are immigrants, and what they did in this particular case, they built 8 stadiums in record time. But they had people coming from India, Nepal, coming over there on contracts. Then they got there, they didn't live up to the contracts, took their passports, they couldn't leave. It was a form
it's like slave labor.
Yeah, and their dwellings were substandard, 8 to a room, no toilets and stuff like that.
But that is not unusual. That's not the first time I've heard of those circumstances. For instance, Dubai, where I've been before and have worked in Dubai. Dubai was built up in the same way, with immigrant labor. If you are from some other country, you cannot become a citizen of Dubai, of the United Arab Emirates, excuse me. Right. And I'm sure that's probably similar things with Qatar.
I think you're right.
Not letting them leave was incredible to me. That is absolutely shameful.
Hey,
Shameful.
but Larry, quick question.
Yeah.
In honor of the international football, is that a soccer shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Okay.
Rugby.
Oh, I didn't know about rugby.
Rugby.
Oh, you might be in the scrum, old mate, bloody buck.
And
Okay.
I'm
All
a
right, we're
big
going to
fan
wrap
of
it up with.
Arsenal.
We're going to wrap this up with a little bit of discussion on the NBA. Best teams in the NBA. Earl, right now, best teams are as many as you want or as few as you want.
Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay. Bobby.
Boston. Boston. Always Golden State. Like keep Golden State up there. Who else? Boston and wait a minute, let me tell you. Oh no, question. Milwaukee. But remember what I said the other day. Look out for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right. Larry.
Boston and Milwaukee are clearly the class of the East. Golden State is really right around 500. They seem to be righting their ship a little bit.
Right.
But, right now, I guess Phoenix is playing well as usual. They're playing well.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Kind of shocked at that.
Okay.
Where's Indiana?
Indiana's doing pretty well. In fact, they're probably doing better than the management wants them to do, because they're 5 games above 500.
Yeah, they're in 4th place in the Eastern Conference. Whoa.
No, they're playing very well. They're playing, Benedict Mathurin, and then the kid they got from Sacramento last year.
He had his matchup, right? Didn't he have his matchup? Who's the rookie they got? Didn't they match up with LeBron James overnight?
Benedict Mathurin. Benedict Mathurin. Well, he said LeBron James ain't got nothing on him.
And they beat the Lakers. They beat the Lakers overnight too.
Oh, by the way,
beat the Lakers.
Look out for this player for the Thunder called
Gilgeous-Alexander.
Woo!
Yes.
Isn't he averaging 30?
Yes, 31.
Yeah.
And 6
somewhere
assists.
around there.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
They can't stop him. He is just smooth. He reminds me of a combination of Earl of Pearl, George Gervin, and Bobby Kinzer.
Wow.
On that note, Bobby Kinzer, self-promoter, we're going to wrap things up. Does anybody have a closing comment?
I'd like to give a special splash out to John Hadel, ex-San Diego Charger quarterback who passed away. He was a great quarterback. I don't think he went to the Hall of Fame either, but he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Who's that?
I think he is. I think he is in the Hall of Fame. I think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Who, Earl?
But what's the one thing about John Hadel that we remember? He wore an odd number. He wore number 21 as a quarterback, and that was kind of rare at that time. Any closing thoughts from you, Bobby?
No, just once again, it's an honor to be amongst your brothers. Thank you, Bobby.
Larry?
No closing thoughts.
All right. My closing thought will be tune in next Wednesday at 8 o'clock for Real Fellas Talk Sports once again. And sometimes we argue, and that's not a bad thing. Good night, everybody.
Good night.